usurper. The masses in their fervor. Guess they ain't heard. Can't have a revolution with no murder. Faster than I'm Birder. Hope I grow the empire. Sovereign of the Sekai. Them bitches call me senpai.
Alright, what's going on, y'all? Today, we're gonna give you a tale of Dungeons and Dragons. For those that might be unfamiliar with Dungeons and Dragons, it's kind of like an improv-y tabletop game where you're all going through a story. Now, in that story, you can have, actions that you want to do to make the story fun or be a jerk or really whatever you want to do. Now, your success of said actions are determined by dice. Now, you might have seen things on the internet where somebody rolls a die and you see a 20, which is getting a nat 20 is you're guaranteed like the best possible outcome, pretty much. And sometimes you see a 1 on there, something horrible happened. Well, yeah, that about sums it up. Somebody rolls a 1, it's not too good for them. So, let's begin with episode 1. So, like all good D&D stories, this one begins in a bar. There we find our main cast. Quinn, the orc barbarian. Groban, the gnome bard. Judas Bernstein, the cleric. Arya, the half-elf rogue. Ventus, the heir genocide. And Exotic Butters, the Asimar paladin. So the group hears of a mysterious tower that would take a few days to get to, but whoever could take said tower, they get a pretty hefty bounty. So naturally, they got together and they're going. So they travel, run into a few kobolds on the way, no big deal, except for Quinn, who for reasons no one could really get, would always collect the kobold tails. They gave him a few side eyes, but they all kept going anyway. And eventually, they run into the tower. It's pretty big. They decide, well, there's a tower, best thing you can do is go up it. So, they walk in. Nothing. Travel all the way up. Get to the top, and lo and behold, nada. Feeling a little cheated, they decide to go back down the tower. There, Arya sees a strange door. It seemed that there was actually something you could do in the tower called, go down. So, they open the door and begin traveling downward. And lo and behold, there were more kobolds. The group took them out pretty easily, which seemed to be working out well, and Quinn the orc was strangely still collecting kobold tails. The group just kind of decided to go with it and, even had them more tails as they went on. Kobold after kobold till eventually, out came out of the shadows a hellhound. The group did their best to take on the hellhound, fiery breath becoming quite a bit of a problem. The cleric, Judas Bernstein, very proud of his little heritage, healed to the best of his ability. They would attack and attack until Butters the paladin flanked behind it and nat 20'd the hell of it with a sword well up its ass. The hellhound was down for the count. And that's where the group celebrated that like none other. They'd taken down their first big bad. Everything was going great until, out of the shadows, there was a bigger growl. And it was not the best day for Judas Bernstein, as a much larger hellhound came out, bit him, and dragged him down the stairs. So Butters unsheaves his sword from the hellhound and leads the group downstairs. There they confront the hellhound. They fight it to the best of their abilities, Ventus, Arya, and Groban attacking, Butters as well, until the time had arrived. They all look back, and they see Quinn the orc. Quinn had taken all his tails, tied them up into a lasso, and tried to put a muzzle on the hellhound. He succeeds, rides it, and it looks glorious. Until the hellhound broke free. And it was not the best of days for Quinn the orc. Quinn is knocked clear to the other side of the room, but he's still in the fight. But while he was distracted, Arya dives in and finishes off the hellhound. The group rests and sees that there is actually further to go. They decide, hell, let's do it. So they go further in. Groban decides that he wants to ride on Butter's shoulders. He does. Take a few steps in and see that it's incredibly dark. Butters decides to light himself up like a beacon, and Arya takes up a torch. They go in further into a room and see that it's filled with just massive, disgusting spiders. Now, I'm not talking like Shelob from like Lord of the Rings. I'm talking like 2 foot long spiders all in packs, just waiting to take the group down. We see them, and Quinn, the half-orc, is terrified. Butters consoles him and convinces him that, he can take on the spiders. They go further in. Quinn rushes ahead with a blanket and attempts to smash them. He fails, that one, and is covered with spiders. Butters uses the blunt end of his sword to try and save him. Unfortunately, doing so, some of the spiders were on his sword and flew off toward Groban. Groban is bit, poisoned, and just vomits everywhere, all over Butters. Butters can't even focus. Arya throws his torch on them to take out the spiders. Butters, well, he takes it okay. Groban, not so much, still sick and vomiting everywhere. Quinn is very thankful. Seeing that some of his companions had been wounded, Judas Bernstein decides it's a good time to heal the group. He preps up his healing, looks their way, and trips all over himself. He fails. Well, Arya managed to finish off more spiders with fire. A trick that seems to work very well. Bernstein attempts to heal again. He trips over himself repeatedly. Quinn decides it's best if he licked his own wounds. The group looks at this in awe as he somehow succeeds. Poor Groban, poisoned, is down for the count. Quinn decides to lick him to heal him. The group stares in awe, then eventually just heals him with magic as well as themselves. So the group reaches a door, and Arya kind of creeps up towards it. She peeks inside very stealthily and sees a bunch of kobolds just there bowing and worshipping a large creature. Maybe reptilian, she can't really tell. She goes back to the group and tells us. The group decides, Butters and Arya, they've got good charisma and intimidation, diplomacy, all that. So maybe they should go over there and just talk to him. Just see what happens. So they do. Butters takes the lead, Arya right behind, and Butters greets with a good old, hey, how you doing? The kobolds look at him, and they notice the big creature was a massive half-black dragon. And that dude was having just none of it. And before he knew it, Butters was just made into a shish kebab right there by one of the kobolds. Never had karma hit Butters so hard than that moment right there, as he reflected on the hellhound. The group charges in. Arya whips the dragon. The rest go for the kobolds. Right there, the dragon looks at Arya. And I repeat, this is a massive half-black dragon. It leans its head back and spews acid like a flood out of its mouth. Arya attempts to dodge, but is knocked down for the count. Covered in acid and is straight up just dying. The acid misses Butters and it hits it's like a couple pillars in the back. So the whole room is starting to shake right now. Groban readies an arrow and shoots the head right off the kobold that was holding up Butters. Butters reflects on his life for a moment, heals himself, and leans up against a wall. So As the kobolds are fighting all the rest of the group, they're slowly but surely taking them down. Groban goes straight for the dragon. Arya, trying to get better, is just hanging on. Just hanging on. The dragon rears its head back, just about to take out Butters, ready to spew out more acid, and lo and behold, slips on its own acid, hits itself, and is wounded. Taking advantage of the moment, Butters charges in for a power attack and beheads the dragon. After taking out their first half dragon, the group just celebrates. They absolutely celebrate. Butters decides to just keep the dragon head. Quinn looks curiously right over at Butters and decides, you know what, he wants the wings, and he takes the tail for reasons that no one can understand. Now, Judas Bernstein decided that he needed a better defense, so he takes the black dragon's armor plate. Now, Ventus, he decides to take the spear to make himself more useful. All while this is happening and they're all celebrating, Arya decides to just kind of sneak away and finds the dragon horde. Now, the story is going to get a lot bigger from here. This is just the beginning. I'll tell you more about other sessions coming up, so make sure, subscribe, tell your friends, and by all means,
Hit that like button!